A lot of folks, if you ask them, they will say that they pray every day. We're going to look at some of the dynamics of prayer. We're going to look at some of the things that makes prayer more effective or effectual and fervent. Therefore, what gets a prayer through? He gets them through when they come from me, so he'll get them through when they come from you. But I think there are some things that we need to verbalize properly that perhaps hasn't been properly verbalized before, and maybe it's just time for us to do that. So we're going to look at the similarities again between a contract and a prayer, but we're also going to look at what constitutes a well-constructed prayer. We're going to also dissect how to apply what Jesus means when he says that for their much speaking, they think that they're heard more. That does not mean that you never have to do a intricate prayer, but that just means that there were some people who were outside showboating, talking loud and saying nothing just to get some attention, and that's not the purpose. First of all, you should be led by the Holy Spirit when you pray. You should let what you're going to say be determined by what the Holy Spirit says to you, first and foremost. So before you go to praying, you need to have some information about a situation. Some information. We have not because we ask not. Many people do not pray in specifics, which means that a lot of times people say, well, Lord, bless me, bless my family, protect me, protect my family. You will get that blessing and that protection. The bad thing is you may not count it as such. You may have got blessed to make all green lights on the way to work, or you may have got blessed to be the one person who did or didn't get overtime, depending on your perspective of what would be a blessing. You may have been blessed by being the person who got to the supermarket and got the most choice cut of meat that was put out that day. So you will be blessed, but are these blessings that you will adequately recognize? Now, we generally do not recognize what we consider insignificant blessings, and no blessing is insignificant. Receiving that freshest packet of meat may have saved you a bout with food poisoning that would have affected the household income and maybe even other family members. So we have a lot of audacity to be picky and choosy when it comes to how we're blessed. However, we do go boldly before the throne of grace. Okay, we humble ourselves before the Lord, but as his children, we have the right to ask him for specific things, for good gifts, because the Father gives good gifts. He blesses and adds no sorrow to it. So then you see in the entertainment world, you see people being given a contract. NFL players signed to a contract. A new artist is given a contract by his label. A new company has been given the contract to do a particular job for the city. Well, a contract is a prayer between two men, two consenting parties, two people. It is, I'm asking you for this service, and I'm telling you what I will do on my end, and you make an agreement, or you disagree. The answer to a contract that is proposed could be no. The answer could be yes, and the answer could be wait. Get things straight. Then we'll continue to negotiate. So when you're looking at the words contract and pray, And when you're looking at the usage of contract in civilization, in society, you are looking at a mockery of a prayer designed to bind. Say the contract is binding. You've entered in a binding contract with your label or with your cell phone company. Okay, so we have to look at the words now. Let's look at the word contract. Interesting how con shows up in the language as a prefix that sometimes takes on a positive connotation, a connotation, and then sometimes it takes on a meaning like dis, okay, meaning to go against or to move contrary to, contrary. Okay, conversely means to go the other way. Okay, or to say the other thing. Converse, verse, speaking, verb, verbal, but to go the other way. Okay, to confirm is con in the positive, making something firm, to confirm. Convince, and then we have invincible. We have to look at vince as it relates to strength. Contest, it's a test, is it not? Well, con can notate two individuals involved, two sides, two parties involved. Okay, contest, detest, and protest, all having to do with a test. But the con is notifying two parties. Well, when you pray, you're also dealing with a second party. You're asking the Father. When Jesus said to pray, what he said was, when he gave the demonstration, he began with our Father. Now, this is difficult for some who want their linear logic to be able to decipher every mystery of God, and they'll be left wanting. But there is a way in which the one we call the Messiah identified himself as being one with the Father, and then he also showed as being holy man as well as holy God, one with the Father. He also had to demonstrate for us who have not yet become one with the Father as a whole. We had to show and we had to be shown how to represent as holy man as well. How do you show the Father his respect as one who is above you? Okay, now that's a whole nother thing that maybe some people need more work and study discerning how that is so, because it took me a long time to get that together, because it does not make common sense. It does not jive with my linear logic, with my human, or with my limited, finite reasoning capabilities. How can you be totally human and totally God? Okay, so people have an issue with that. Okay, well, okay, let's set that aside. Let's pretend for a second that you get that, okay, that you understand being holy God and holy man, okay, completely deity and then completely carnal. Okay, so the point is, we make a contract also between two, between us and the Father. Now, because we go through the intercessor, okay, because the Father is wholly good and wholly pure, and cannot resonate with energies that have ill intent, such as we do. We have an intercessor that we go through. So I construct the prayers in the way that I do, with that in mind. Okay, the contract is with the Father, but it's in the authority of the name. Okay? Do you get that? Now, I'm not going to tell you that a prayer does not work when it's constructed willy-nilly, but I will tell you that a more effectual or effective prayer is one that has been designed with the specifics of the binding contract in mind. Because what you are doing, in effect, in deliverance praying, is you are counteracting and nullifying the clauses in the contract made by the individual with the enemy, whether that contract was made consciously or without their full knowledge and consent. Once the contract is made, it is made. Now, you have to be able to discern through counsel and speaking with the individual who is in search of deliverance. You have to be able to listen to them, because when they really want help, they will tell you things. Okay, their spirit will cry out, the Holy Spirit will cry out and cause them to make you know things that you know not. Jeremiah 33:3. So you have to have a listening ear too. You don't just rush into the situation. Consider the EMS, consider doctors, surgeons. They need to know what they're dealing with. They have to know what's going on. And then they understand how to proceed, what procedure needs to be done, what precautions need to be taken. Because when you are praying, sometimes there are precautions that need to be taken. Again, if you listen to the Holy Spirit will not allow for you to enter into this battle without giving you the proper tools. So if there's certain things that need to be prepared for, or if perhaps the wise thing is for you to back out from engaging in the spirit, because perhaps you're not settled in your own spirit at the time. Perhaps you feel fearful, okay? Or perhaps there's some looming guilt in your mind that you have not forgiven yourself for, that the enemy can use as a means of attaching itself to you. Now, we're never going to approach the situation squeaky clean, not as long as we're inside of this carnal machine. However, when you're at peace, okay, you need to enter into the situation at peace. That you always got something that's bothering you or something that's on the back of your mind. I'm not saying that you won't have that, but you made peace with it. It's not eating you up. It's not agitating you. It's not taking away from your focus. It's not causing you to vibrate in such a way as to alarm the demon that, hey, there's another negative entity in there that I can partner with. And like Agent Smith, they can split themselves, and without totally leaving the other person, they can transfer a portion of their being to you, because you have something for them to connect to. You dig it? So you go in peace, as peaceful as you can possibly be. And again, I don't say these things to discourage you from engaging in the deliverance ministry. I tell you, the harvest is ready, but the laborers are few, so we need you. But I don't need for you to get on the battlefield and freeze up or make a silly mistake. Okay, so of course you go in, with some peace of mind. Okay, now you're not likely to run into many demons who won't go with the simple 1-2 punch. Okay, the 10 words. Okay, but when and if you will encounter something that has a little more power or bite to it, quote unquote, the Holy Spirit will let you know. And it won't be fear. It will be discretion as the better part of valor. It will be the small, still voice that will let you know, okay, well, you need to fast before you take on this task. Okay, and 9 times out of 10, the Holy Spirit telling one person in the room, whoever else is in the room that has the Holy Spirit will pick up on it as well. And so then, you go, you do your fast, you do your day, you do your 3 days. Okay, because sometimes the person can't wait for you. The Lord ain't finna wait for you to get on none status. And then, like that's something. But you get what I'm saying. To wait until you reach your standard of perfection and then go back in. No. By then it might be too late. Okay? Every second, every day counts, just like with a sickness, just like with a physical sickness. So, all right. So, you engage in the fight. You are ready. Okay. You begin to write your counter-contract or to write your prayer to counteract the contract. Okay. Now let's look at a couple of other things concerning the word contract. Now I know Prince went on tab and smile and he broke the word down, and all you Prince lovers were so proud and geeked of him. But he left out a couple of important things. First of all, you look at the word tract. Okay, it is from the Latin root to drag or pull. Okay, you think about the intestinal or the digestive tract. Also, a tract can be a piece of paper, a flyer, or an advertisement that tells the beliefs of a particular spiritual discipline or religious system, such as a Jehovah's Witness tract. Have you ever received a Watchtower magazine, that little paper, or one of the other little papers? Those can be called a tract. Have you ever seen a Chick Publications tract, like the ones that my sister Golden Lady sent out? The Chick Publications tracts that you would often see at the bus stops and the community centers, and they would have a message in it, hopefully helping to lead someone to the Lord. They were very powerful cartoons. I used to love them. But those were called tracts as well. So now do you see the relationship between to drag or pull and the word tract, and its use in biology as well as its use in theology? Okay, to hand out Jehovah's Witness tracts or Chick Publication tracts. Also, you have a census tract, which is the census area or the census district. It's also called a tract. I vaguely was reminded of that. Well, I vaguely remembered it, but I was reminded of that as I looked up what the official meanings of the word tract is. Now, again, we do not look sideways upon research. Research is what time it is, okay? But it's knowing how far to go with the research before you have to make some conclusions based on what you know about the Luciferian conspiracy, which does not limit itself to the entertainment business, nor does it limit itself to the ministry, but it also reaches into academia. It reaches into our educational system. It is one reason why we're looking at the spell of spelling, okay, and the way that the words are constructed. Well, we know also in the street there is the slang for someone who is trying to run some game on you, or who is trying to trick you, and they're called a con man. Okay, people would say it would come from convict. You know, vict and victory and victor all relate. So convict. Okay, if we use con in the negative, then a convict is already said to have not been the victor in a battle that was waged in court. But now let's look at the con of the contract, and then we're going to look at pray. Now, when we look at words and we see things like this, okay, when you see that in the word pray, before you jump to any conclusions, you have to make a couple of assessments. Just like when you're looking at The Matrix, or you're watching some movie, and you begin to think, oh, the director's trying to tell us something, the writers is trying to tell us something, they're trying to help us out. Some of you will look at the word pray, P-A-R-A-Y, and then pray, P-R-E-Y. Again, the A and E dynamic. Some of you will look at those words and you say, oh, the Websters, they was trying to show us something. They was trying to show us, they was trying to teach us something. They was letting something out. As bad as you would think for the Wachowskis. I started to say brothers, but one of them has turned himself to a sister. That's right, one of the Wachowski brothers behind the Matrix films has turned himself, or had himself turned into a woman, quote unquote, through surgical techniques. So do not think that they were some saviors in Hollywood trying to sneak out a message to you. No more than you should look at pray and think that the Websters was trying to sneak you out a message that to pray makes you weak, makes you food for the predator, right? And I did see a direct relationship and correlation between the two words. But now, who is the one that chooses the words for the things that we do? If a rose was called a lump, and a robin was called a boo-boo, would you still think that these things were beautiful? Of course you would. Okay, we put names on things, but it does not change what the thing is. Okay, the thing is still what it is. We could have a bold name on it. So now, a name was selected for the act of humbling oneself before the Almighty and petitioning Him in the authority of the name of the Son. And this name that was chosen for this act was selected by men who were part of the Luciferian elite, and therefore were not for prayer. Now you ask, well, how does prayer get in the public schools, or how was it in public schools? I remember we used to pray every day. Before we started doing any work, first thing was you prayed. I remember that in school. Now it's gone. Well, that's because at that time you still had a fighting believer population that was very suspicious of those in power aligning themselves with the devil, and so they were very protective of parts of society, including and especially school. So therefore you didn't have the complacency in the public to take God out of things that you have today. As knowledge has increased, now there's much more of a propensity to take God out of public and to say that doing so is part of giving mankind rights. Well, before this occurred, of course, people wasn't buying that. Okay, they weren't into that. So we're going to come back and we're going to look at why the words pray for the religious act of prayer and pray in zoology, the food of the predator, are one and the same, and what is exactly behind that game. You know the name.